Hello and welcome back to The Broken Doll. All right, I had a request from Laura Baumeister. Laura asked, why would she saw that I talked about linseed oil, and I said that in my last video, my organization video of my shop here, that I use linseed oil with my composition dolls. She says, why would you use that? Well, we'll talk about that. Right now, one of the things about linseed oil is that you will find that in oil paint. Now, there are other oils that they have used as well, but linseed is the most common one that you will find in oil paint. So when they painted their dolls back in those days, they would put the oil paint on top of the doll. And one thing about oil paint, it loves wood. It would just wrap right around your wood. It lays so nice on wood. And but over time, the years went by, you would find in your doll, you would see these little lines like webbing all through the doll. And you go, what's that webbing all about? Where did it come from? Why is it doing that? Well, the reason for that happening is because what's happening to the doll is that the linseed oil has dried up. Now, it's been known, I've not done it myself. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have done it a couple times. That's wrong. I have done it a couple times on dolls that had webbing. And you can rub a little bit of linseed oil onto the doll. Sometimes you can make those crazing lines go away a bit or fade a bit more. Now, there are dolls that have really heavy crazing. Then it gets a little bit difficult, and sometimes that's when you have to repaint the doll. So you can sand that oil paint down and just repaint over it. That is one thing you could do with your doll. Now, the thing is that in the 1945s, 1950s, out came acrylic paint, which is a plastic paint. Plastic and wood do not go together, but they did put it on composition dolls. It looks good at the beginning, but as the years went on, just like what happened with the oil paint crazed, what happens to acrylic, it lifts and it cracks and it lifts right off your doll. And you can just pull it right off your doll with no problem whatsoever. So with that happening, now what happens is that now you got this new paint taken over, and 30, 40 years later, you're repainting your doll again. That can also happen with oil paint dolls. You're painting your doll again, but you don't have to always take all the paint off. Like I said, with oil paint, you can sand it and then, just paint right over it. So that's a wonderful attraction right there with oil paint. But when it comes to acrylic and you got a doll that's lifting, you have to take either all the paint off or take off the paint where it's lifting and then even that out with some type of putty or whatnot, something to fill in there. You can use spackling, or you can use milliput or whatever to fill in that uneven area so that it's even right across. Personally, myself, I would rather just take it all off, but that's my choice that I do. But another thing is too, now I had one thing that happened to me in all the dolls that I have restored, and I'm starting to get a good number of dolls underneath me now that I've restored. I bought a doll not so long ago, and I put linseed oil on the doll thinking that would be, I found that it just wasn't relaxed, I felt, or just not looking right to me. So I thought maybe some linseed oil would help it. Well, that was a mistake for me because I didn't know what lied underneath inside the composition itself was that there was water in there. Now we know what water and oil does. They don't like each other. They're not friends. They don't have nothing in common with one another. And we know the oil will float right on top of the water, So what happens is the oil wasn't going anywhere. And the water was coming out, was lifting out of the doll. The doll, I think because it was, no, I'm not going to say I think because also what was happening with the doll was that it was starting to disintegrate a little bit. It was the composition was actually lifting up off the doll. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I do? Well, with the water trapped inside, it soaked through the composition and laid inside. I wakened up that moisture that was in there because it must have been kept in a place where it was always moisture. And so when I put the linseed oil on, which was just staying on top of the doll, wasn't like doing its job. I was wondering why. Well, I had all this wet on top of the doll. Well, because the linseed oil couldn't get through to do its job because there was water trapped in there. What do you do when that happens? Well, then what you have to do is wipe off the doll and just let it dry out. That's it. I just let her dry. Let her just sit for a while and just let her dry out. So anyways, that's one reason I have linseed oil here. Now another, you can, once you take your paint off the doll, something like this, I could put a little bit of linseed oil on here. And one thing about it, when I put the oil paint on, it grabs onto it. It loves the linseed oil. And so it'll actually grab, and it also, with wood, it actually acts like a, it's like when your skin is rough and you want to put some moisturizer on it. That's what you're doing to the wood. You're moisturizing the wood a bit. And you're giving it some, a little bit of a treatment, a type of thing. Sometimes linseed oil can be really, like, it is good for the wood. So that's why I have linseed oil here. Now, I don't use it on all my composition dolls. I find when they're stressed, I'm getting to learn what to look for. Your eye becomes accustomed a little bit. And now that I learned that one thing about my doll there that was never happened to me yet again. I've never seen it happen again. But that's because that doll just came in a box from eBay to my house. It didn't sit here for a long period of time at all. It was brand new in my shop here. It's an old doll from 1919, I think it was. And I found out with her is that she must have been kept in a moist area. Now, if she was in my shop for a long period of time, like a lot of my dolls have been, I don't think I would have saw that problem at all, because that would have, the wood would have dried out by the time I got to her. But that's why I use linseed oil. You can actually help out your crazing marks on your oil paint dolls. If you have crazing, you can rub a little linseed oil and see if it helps. May not, it might. You can also use it on your bare wood doll. Once you get the paint off, you can use it on that as well. But you can't be using it with acrylic. Acrylic is water. So this is only for oil paint only. You use linseed oil. Acrylic, it's only water-based. That's the only thing about it. And that's why a lot of dolls got painted that might have been old stock and whatnot, got painted in, like back, we got to go back to the day. A lot of little doll shops painted, got bare naked dolls like this. No paint on them at all. And they painted them up themselves sometimes. They could buy old stock, paint them, had a lady back there painting up dolls, and then they just put them on the shelf, dress them, and put them on a shelf. And these little toy shops that were on a lot of little corners or hidden in little, between other stores would sell these little dolls that they painted up themselves. And what did they paint it with? Well, the new paint came out, acrylic, and it's a good way of getting rid of old dolls, And, or they had old dolls and they just took the old oil paint off it and just put acrylic on the doll. Who knows, those are just some scenarios of it, that happened, so. But a lot of dolls did go in for repairs as well, and they got repainted, and they got painted with the new paint, because it was, why? It was easy. It was oil paint. It was water cleanup. And when it's water cleanup, that's easier to deal with than having to clean up with oil paint, which took paint thinners to clean up with. Your brushes don't have to soak as much. You just put them in water, and they cleaned right up beautifully. It was a wonderful paint, and so linseed oil got put to the side, oil paint got put to the side, and the acrylic paint came to the top in the late 40s, early 50s. But before that, it was good old linseed oil, and it was in your oil paint. And so, like I say, if you're restoring an old doll that has that webbing look on its face, its arms and legs, you can always try a little bit of linseed oil to see if you can make those little webbings go away. Now, if it's really heavy, I've seen really wide marks on dolls that have serious webbing. Sometimes that's hard to mask up, like to cover over. And when that happens, it's good just to sand the doll down, and you can paint right over oil paint. Oil paint on top of oil paint is wonderful. Oil paint, now if you're going to put acrylic on top of oil paint, I don't suggest it. You can do it. But like I said, oil paint does not love plastic. And it will just, the acrylic will sit on top of the oil paint, and you will have to repair your doll very soon again, down the road, 20 years away, and you'll be probably, fixing, having to refix that doll again because you put acrylic on top of oil. But if you're going to put oil on top of oil, that's not a problem at all. Acrylic on top of acrylic, not a problem at all. But, I just don't like putting, I think that I said it in reverse. It's putting oil on top of acrylic. You can put acrylic on top of oil. That's what it is. Yeah, you can put acrylic on top of oil, but it will lift down the road soon. But, which is not still advisable. Okay, but do not put oil on top of acrylic. That's what the rule is. Acrylic over oil, yes. Oil on top of acrylic, no. Because it can, you can do it, but it's just not the best to do. So I hope that little mix up there, a little blurb there, but I hope you understand what I'm saying there. But that's what linseed oil is all about. It really is an aid to composition dolls and oil paint, and they go hand in hand with one another. Wood loves this stuff, and yeah, plastic belongs with plastic, and wood paint belongs with wood. You know, so. Like I say, I try to keep to the rules as much as possible. If I have a composition doll, for me, I'm always painting them in oil. If I have a plastic doll, I'm going to paint with acrylic. And I try to keep those two separate all the time. That's my way of doing things. But I do know people who have put acrylic on top of oil. And it does work. But again, you're looking at a quick fix and something that you might have to deal with down the road again. And why not do it right if you're going to do it? You know, that's the way I look at it. Now, I know people who have put oil on top of acrylic, and it also has a short lifespan. So both of them have a lifespan. The oil on top of acrylic is even shorter. And a lot of people have come up to me and they showed me their dolls. I've seen some dolls that people come up with, and it was oil on top of acrylic, and it's just not doing good at all. I just looked at one not too long ago, and I said, your doll needs to be redone. That's oil on top of acrylic. And I said, it's just not adhering. I said, she goes, oh yeah, it's just not a good mix at all. And I said, yeah, it's not the way to do things. And I've seen the other way. I've bought dolls with acrylic paint on top of oil, and it's lifting, and the oil is underneath there, really beautiful. But the acrylic is lifting right up off the doll. And it probably was painted back in the 70s, you know, something like that. And looked great for its day. But the rules should, you know, there are rules to what things like, and wood loves, like I come right down with it, it loves oil. So there's the bottom line to it. Linseed oil has a big purpose in wood. So just thought I'm glad you asked that question. That was a really good question. Hope I didn't mix you up there because I kind of blurped it there. But anyways, yeah, good stuff though. Good question. I really love that question, Laura. And ask them away. I don't mind. I hope I answered that. I didn't make it too lengthy here. But anyways, thank you again. I love the questions. I enjoy answering them. And I'm getting ready to make another video coming up here. So stay tuned. There is more to come. And let the questions come, and give me a thumbs up if you like what you heard here today. And a comment would be nice. That's my mail in the air. All right. Thank you for joining me. And we'll be talking to you again really soon. Bye-bye.